All right, everybody, welcome back. Daily trading recap for Thursday, the 23rd of September here, 2021. SPY pretty nice 1.2% update on the day. Forming another dip. We'll see if we fall back in line with that little channel that we were riding in for a decent amount of time, too. I don't really have any intuition one way or another, but I'll be very interested to see with my popcorn. Interested to see what happens. Market internals on the day for dollar volume. NASDAQ just still kind of hitting just below that $200 billion volume mark, 193. Nice C, $275 billion volume. OTCs, let's do OTCs, $2 billion volume. Hovering around the same marks that we've been seeing pretty consistently. We'll see if, keep an eye on anything changing in that regard for dollar volume. Two trades for me on the day. Pretty stupid chasey one on HLBZ and NNVC, a different one type of trade, or no, CRVS was my other trade, looking for kind of third day surge or first red day reversal on that type of chart too. That'll get in here too a little bit. Looking hard at HLBC going into the market, NNVC for potential third day surges, and just didn't happen. And it was just so funny that RWLK, another third day surge that actually ended up happening perfectly on this big green day, consolidation, little sell off day, rest day, then big third day. QS, another nicey ticker, that similar type of setup, pretty big volume green day yesterday. Solid little rest day, breakout day that hovered just below that high. Now big percentage move, ending 15% to the upside on this one. All the other tickers that I wasn't watching happened on the third day play, but it's whatever. That's what trading is, right? It's whatever. Let us get into the trades. I'll start off with HLBZ. They had another freaking press release, the exact same rinse and repeat, and I don't know how they're able to do it, manipulate it so easily. And Bowen, I think, absolutely fell out of his chair laughing when on this news, which was artificial intelligence to scooter sharing. Incredible, just absolutely fascinating. And here again, a rinse and repeat of big nice spike day on a press release, fade off, consolidation, nothingness day, shove out another press release, absolutely skyrocket the stock, has its little day, does nothing, next day, a little bit of a sell-off, consolidation, nothingness, trying for the same thing again. Lightning strikes 3 times in a row, right? Let's do it. Has his even more hard of a sell-off, not even that great of a move to the upside, and just continues to fade off. So unless they come out with more, it's just like the dilution in the economy with this inflation. They're just going to try to keep pumping, and each successive one is going to have less and less of an effect on the retail trader. Just a very chasey trade for me, kind of a little decent sized position for me on this trade, which was no hard substance to this thesis. Just saw the nice news to the upside, of course, the former runnerness of it, the fact that it wasn't even this big of a percentage move. Saw that we were pulling back pretty decently, thought we were putting in a little bit of a base here around this $28 whole level. Thought I could play a little bit of an entry. I actually waited. It faked out underneath 28 for a little bit. I thought it was collecting a few more longs that were trying to buy a dip a little bit, and I thought I was being smart in that effect and was buying a little bit on the rise, but then it eventually stopped out that low once again, so stopped me out for a chase. Not a favorite type of trade, not really anything that I'm proud to admit that I was trading on this one. It is obviously short sale restricted from yesterday as well too for that 10% drop off. So I thought we could see some more craziness. Thought, lightning could strike 3 times again, and I was going to be riding along for a pretty nice little pre-market. Maybe it does something decently before the open, but of course nothing happened. Respected price action as it was there, and took my stupid loss as it came. I think that loss was $8 loss for the size I had, so nothing absolutely crazy. Just cut losses quickly. Wiped that off my memory very quickly, and then went on to CRVS, which I mentioned yesterday too. It was funny that I literally said it yesterday that I usually always have a clean perspective when I come into the market, and even though I'm doing all the scans and all the prep work and stuff, I don't ever look at anything super hard or come in with just a super hard emotion that something has to happen or something has to work. And then that's kind of exactly what I did on CRVS today. I just said, it wasn't like I was trying to force the trade that wasn't there, but it was like I just feel so much conviction in this one, and I had to take the smack on the cheek when it was proven wrong. And price action, respect the price levels as they were there. This trade in itself too, I took a little bit harder too, and I don't know if that was because I fall into a little bit of that FOMO and looking around the entire social media sphere or other factors too that gets in my head again once you have like, oh, everybody else in the market is making money, right? And I'm still taking these stupid losses. So I think I took this loss a little bit more emotionally hard, even though, of course, it's not a huge P&L loss. It's not a huge percentage loss. And really, to this effect that I want to explain before I get into the exact trade of it, this really wasn't the trade in itself. I was even betting, this was the bet before the trade even happened. We weren't even green as of yet from the close of yesterday, looking for this green day or first red day reversal type of trade. I think I mentioned this yesterday too. There's just no volume as a panic on this first red day. Bowen mentioned it again in his pre-market prep as well too, that I just had a little bit of a difference on when he brought up this ticker of, hey, we're on the backside now. You just got to be careful. These are super sketchy stocks. And I'm thinking it's easy to see too, but from the perspective of a short, it's just so, it happens so many times in my opinion too on that CIEI trade. On what day that was, I forget it was, that just like quick reversal to the upside, just smacking all those shorts trying to be eager on this thing, thinking they can get a quick and predictable move to the downside. I got absolutely smoked. And to me, this was another one too, mainly prompted by this just lackluster low volume day, and especially how well it held. Of course, not pretty far distance away from VWAP, but still the price action says it all, that it wasn't wanting to panic and fall off of all these longs, of all these, whatever you want to call this, buy up support for this little run up here. It was just showing nothing for the collecting of profits or shoving this thing even lower to the downside on that first red day, which is usually the opportunity to take the bag and run, right? So, or even saying that if there's no volume to come in to prove that there's thinking there's way more room to come in the next few days. So that was the initial trade that I was looking, the thesis for this type of trade, and I was scaling in 10 share lots with this as it was showing more and more strength, volumes coming in on this candle. So I'm scaling in 725, 735, as it coming like 74, showing strength on the bid, coming to 74, and then it kind of wipes out, fails. Here again, too, we get closer to that 74, starts to bid up again by another 10 shares. So in total, it was a 40 share position, $280 position size, which was pretty comfortable for me, knowing that I was establishing different price levels in my head too, of saying, okay, I know we are not at the actual point of me looking for the trade as of yet too, looking this thing to go to a minimum almost of $9, that I'm looking for that high of day move pretty much a day to squeeze these shorts or squeeze any little sticky finger boys trying to get in on this type of ticker. But saying the price levels in my head, okay, 7.6, I know for sure I want to have X number of shares. In total, I was really looking to say, hey, looking to get close to $1,000 position size in this for the conviction that I have on this type of reversal day trend. And I know that 7.8 was pretty much my point of no return, that if we're holding with strength above there, I need to be in a full position size 100% if price action is there, because then I think that will certainly be the point at which the trade is either going to happen to the upside and then it goes from there, and really whatever entry points potentially come from there is any man's best guess, any person's best guess. So just identifying the different levels in my head that way too, of kind of planning out, hey, where do I want to add, where do I want to scale out, where do I want to protect myself now, so I'm not so emotional that trying to chase a full position size at one specific point versus potentially establishing myself a little bit in and out here before the actual green moves happens to the upside, and I can sit a little bit safer in that regard too, with the having to respect the fact that this type of chart could absolutely happen today, where the probability of the trade happening, because I'm scaling in so much further away from what I think the actual entry point is, obviously the probability becomes lower and lower and lower that it happens, pairing that to what your risk reward is for taking a position so far away from what I view as the initial entry point too. So taking those factors in again, circling back to what I said at the beginning of, for some reason, I kind of took this loss just a little bit more to the gut that, I was proven wrong. I think coming off of yesterday too, where I had those two winners, and it was just the mentality of, I'm on top of the world, right? I'm the best trader in the world, and I'm doing everything right, and I'm identifying all these patterns, and I see this chart at the end of the close yesterday, I'm thinking, it's going to do the same thing again. I'm trying to predict all these moves and falling into that trap a little bit too of like, I was wrong for some reason, even though I knew in my head too, this wasn't the exact pattern. No volume coming in today too to support this thing to any, we're at $41 million, which is not a lot. And again, looking on the daily, you already saw this one, just this volume candle is absolutely minuscule for trying to predict any type of upward movement or reversal on this chart today. so many signs going against me too, and I knew that full and well, and that's what my position size even reflected too. I was well enough within myself to have a respectable enough of position size to say, hey, I think there is a conviction that it could potentially go to a potential trade versus I know the probability of that actually happening is a lot lower. So now I'm just respecting and pulling back off a little bit, even though my conviction in this is so much higher. That's just a part of trading, I think. And it's just the growing of me as a trader too, and what I put a lot of my mental energy on this chart today to even past all my other charts and other scans and other tickers that were potentially moving. A lot of my energy and focus was specifically placed on this ticker today too, and I don't regret that. I think it actually benefited me more because had this thing worked out, had volume come in and push it to the upside, of course, it's easy to say now too in hindsight, I would be talking about an awesome trade, awesome P&L day, and maybe gotten even more cocky going into the next one because coming over from that emotional point that I mentioned from yesterday too, how I had those nice 2% percentage movers, or those 2 trade percentage movers, and then coming in today too, thinking I'm on top of the world, I'm an awesome trader. It's, we're starting this hockey stick to the upside for my P&L and my trading account to just getting more and more cocky, building it that way too. It took a little bit of a nice day like this one to realize, hey, just because you trade good one day doesn't mean that you're going to trade good the next day. And it's all about the one individual trade. And I tried to force a little bit more than what was there, tried to think that I was being smart and stepping in before the actual trade is going to happen when the trade really wasn't there to begin with. If different indicators were hit, then the trade would have happened, but those indicators weren't hit. So that's a realization that I have to come to in all of this, and not a huge P&L loss to scar me in any regard to, which I know I keep myself safe beforehand too through taking a lot of those losses earlier in my trading career. But $20 loss in total on this one today too, which was really, or no, not even, like $13 loss to add on that $8 HLBZ loss. So even, more than that, if this was absolutely nothing, I think it was, for how much I took that loss emotionally, I think that was a far better indicator than a larger P&L loss would have done to me too, because that put that realization in my head too, that man, you are putting a lot of focus on just being right in the trade too, which I have to take my step back and say, yep, you know what, you're right. I did a little bit of forcing of this trade that wasn't there, got myself in a little bit early, caught over my head of trying to maybe mystify things that were building that really weren't until, there's plenty, for how far I think that I thought this thing was going to go the upside, there's plenty of room to get in far before that point. I don't need to be establishing position size far before that. It could move pretty rapidly, but I can also push a button pretty rapidly too. It's not like it's just going to go absolutely berserk without me within milliseconds that it's going to reach that point too. But failed mover on that one, just didn't happen. Don't really know what's going to come in the next few days here. It's kind of coming off my watch list for just this lackluster volume. Maybe it has some type of bounce at some point for more volume, but I'm gonna have to see more volume on the downside for me to convince me that the downside on this is actually truly in, or else it's just gonna potentially fade the whole rest of this time too. Another point that I want to mention as well too, that I didn't realize before the market opened today, was the initial run up on this thing, how manipulated it seemed, primarily because of no volume, no real news catalyst to continue it, but it was surrounding a little bit of different programs, studies, oncology, and infectious diseases. So I think a specific drug trial was coming out on Wednesday because of a COVID-19 trial that they had to. So I think a little bit of speculation was going into it by the rumor cell, the news, that it was just being messed around with because of that upcoming trial. And then when the results came out, then it had a little effect on that. So I think this was a far different pattern than what would normally be a kind of pump and dump, push it on news attack with volume coming into maybe manipulation from insiders, whatever that factor is too. And then these specific type of patterns that we're looking for, these third day surges, these first red day reversals can start to happen because those are the type of tickers that those actually happen on, is the more manipulated stocks too. Whereas this one was kind of more of a real drug trial, more of a real news-based ticker, in my opinion, potentially. I have no clue whatsoever if this was actually real or just straight stock manipulation. But that's my guess on this one, that was a little bit tainted because it's kind of more real news in a sense for this type of stock. yeah, that's pretty much all I want to mention on CRVS. MRM was another big percentage mover in the morning. Actually, I had news after hours yesterday. It's a pretty low floater, Japanese company, really low floater, 2 million float. Just kind of lackluster end of after hours, intro to pre-market here, but then nice spike coming out of nowhere. And it's at that point that it just starts to spike crazy where it kind of just comes off my watch of, okay, geez, whatever. Then it becomes, Tui had a great mention of that too in one of the small cap recaps, that it's, you either got to be in this move, in this little block here, or else it just becomes so much more choppy to try and trade after that move. You got to be an insider. You got to be just somehow the greatest stock wizard intraday pattern trader on the planet to try to nail any of these moves here. Of yes, you can say, okay, it's basing here and risking this risk level here, but to how many times does it just fake out, fall the VWAP, and then reverse again, to just the headaches and the paper cuts of going through different strategies like that, to looking back in hindsight on this type of chart and saying, oh, this is an easy block to see. It's just holding perfectly at this $13 whole level, and you just buy to the upside and you can sell at a perfect $15. It's an easy move right there, right? How many times these charts don't end up working out like that is just mind-numbing to me. So as it's kind of coming here and then reaching these astronomical levels, I totally took it off of my watch and just kept up on the chart, just of course because it's the biggest percentage mover, biggest dollar volume mover, I think, for small capper, 712 million, I think. Don't quote me on that one. But I just wanted to mention too, because of Jack number 2, his style of just shorting these morning spikers, looking for a morning spike to sell into. I think I would have been scared off a little bit. I'm saying this having zero experience shorting into any amount of morning spikes too, but even from my kind of newbie trader experience of that short these big percentage movers, I would have been kind of scared out after a halt. Anytime it halts, I'm going, okay, this is throwing off me. Absolutely. The price action coming out of that is going to be a little wonky. But Jack number 2 got an absolutely beautiful short into this perfect high a day candle here, right on this 943 candle. It was just a nice move sell off to the downside. All the rest of that morning session, I think he covered a little bit because it was holding decently well with this little trend line right before the lunch hours, but then sold off, faded the rest of the afternoon too. So I certainly don't know. And the 1 or 2 times that I've done this before too, I think I've had to take losses because it's just that timing factor that I respect that high day risk level too much, and you get these little algo stop outs that just tap above that high day and then end up falling hard. So I don't know, for my personality's sake, if that's the most apropos trading style for me too, but it's all of these just seem like easy money, right? It just seems like, hey, it's up too much and it's spiking super, super hard with super high volume. That's what you short into, right? And you expect the real volume. And you can get in, reshort again too, but that's the trouble with me too, is I carry a decent amount of weight too because of the pattern day trader rule, and the only amount of day trades that I have, the only amount of cash that I have in my cash account to go with my longs, of trying to balance all those different factors while also maintaining, hey, don't try to put so much focus on the one individual trade. Be willing to let it go and accept the loss for what it is, or move on to the next one. But also staying disciplined and saying, hey, this is really only all that I have today too for the individual trade too. Super long-winded in that type of discussion, but yeah, I want to certainly keep my eyes on, just in my head at least, a little bit of looking for these nice volume pushes to the upside, looking for just hard strength that potentially fails off, and then as a short, just shorting into that squeeze. It's just an easy pattern, very easy to get squozen in against, but I think these are the types of charts today too that are all the degenerates and all the patterns and reason for that type of trade come out from. Is just this easy little quick money grab, playing these to the downside, and this VWAP crack is just icing on the cake for the downside too, playing that to a nice little fade in the morning session. That's what it do. CEI, last ticker I wanted to mention here quick too. Really nice day today. What percentage? With 30% to the upside. Had this little choppy range, and how many times I've traded this one in and out too, versus the nice day was that. Yeah, that was this day, the 13th. And then it just has this little take me yonder through the woods type of price action here on the daily. And you can call it, okay, it's, holding its levels here well too, or just like an intra-daily perspective, if you want to call it that. But I mean, no, it's not. It's just so super choppy. I mean, you can't even really call this like a first green day, even though, yes, all these days on the daily were red. It did have a little bounce here for what it did after that one initial day. Go back to this one. It's just so choppy. And again, this one is just slow of a mover too, and it's so manipulated from the get-go. Like, how much more is left in the tank on this ticker? But I think a lot of guys in the chat nailed this one. Even in the morning session for the gap up too, I would have thought, well, this is kind of a stupid ticker to be trading. Why are we trading it so hard? If you took out, this section. Okay, gapped up a little bit, but why are we caring about this? But then volume comes in really nicely for the afternoon session, just holding under these levels. This technical level was a perfect hold under that little previous high a day mark, kind of this 180-ish area, that little consolidation factor. And then nice, even at that point too, buying a breakout from there. Nice continuation to the upside for a percentage move on that style of trade. Maybe has some more room in the tank for a little gap up tomorrow too. These after hours aren't looking so hot as of right now. Maybe it just does, again, a little Alice trot through the woods of stupid and mind-numbing price action days in the next few days and has another potential first green day type of day sometime in the future. But good percentage move on day today. I wasn't even watching it. I only pulled it up in the after hours here too. Didn't even see it looking at my scanners. But that's all I had on that one. Watch this going into tomorrow. Just looking at VTVT as of right now, it's a pretty nice percentage mover. And now pulling pretty hard to the downside. It was news catalyst of, it is an American biotech, float of 22 million. News catalyst of multiple ascending dose study and development plan for HPP 737, an oral PDE4 inhibitor for the treatment of psoriasis. Oh, very interesting. This one, I remember trading this one pretty nicely on one of these days. This was in a pre-market play that died off. So just going through these past, nice big volume days too, to see if there's any indication of what this thing could have potentially done. Obviously, I was doing this before it was breaking VWAP and pulling back pretty hard. I really think it just fades back to this one previous trading day close type of price range going into tomorrow. But when it was trading around here too, trying to figure out, hey, what is on that daily, which was the 12th of December here. Of course, this was an incredibly hot 2020 winter market. This is the type of price action it had with an after hours news play. You hold off a VWAP oil, start curling, testing that previous high, continue to spike even in that after hours, hold pretty well. Even more awesome spike going into right away from pre-market open the next day. So again, super crazy hot winter market of 2020 that this happened in for that day, but it was just proving that, hey, this thing can do that type of price action, even though it may be far slower market compared to what that was during that time frame on a news press in the after hours right at the close. But I don't really know what to do with it as of now. Now that's breaking so hard and continuing to push the lows here. We'll see what it does at the $2 whole level area. But that is all I had. Little $21 down day. Another chink of the armor. Another lessons in the trading book to continue to develop myself of who I am as a trader. Continuing to develop here. It's going to break that $2 level. Let's see. $2 sitting on the bid. Down to the last bidder. Are you going to break? On the edge and I'm about to break. You can do it. Oh, we got another bidder. Are you going to do it? Are you going to? You're getting live action right here. We're coming in on that half hour mark. That's pretty soon. We got some time to spare. Oh, we broke. There it is. She's done, though. She's off the watch list. Cut it. Break it off. That was all I had today, guys. I thank you so much for watching. We will attack it tomorrow on Money Friday, going into the weekend. Looking pretty nice. We are certainly excited to keep our head locked in and focused on ourselves and what we're doing. Drown out the noise. Live for today. Thank you for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.